No, and uh, uh, yeah, both my wife and I have stuff we can't miss tomorrow and Friday. So
Oh no.
We'll hold
hopefully it
on for
stays
another
away.
48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for making time to join the sports sector. We have the Honorable Bob Martin joining us. Thank you for coming, Bob. Um, Pete and I and Natalie had a chance to meet the to kind of focus our thoughts on what might happen on April 8th. And I think that we had a really spirited and good conversation. And, the whole idea of the sports sector is strengthening the youth sports ecosystem in Kansas City around participation, access, safety, and equity. And we're continuing to try to do that. I think we're going to have a full room on April 8th. So that's exciting. And, I'll let Natalie and Pete kind of share some of their thoughts on how we're doing and what we think this meeting might mean. There's still room to help us strategize and think through the agenda. At this point, we're not holding our breath, waiting for 2026 World Cup planning team to step up and assume some sort of ownership. So we've asked them to come, and I pushed out a message 2 days ago asking them to respond at least in a gracious way, but we're not sure. So, anybody else want to say anything about the goals of this meeting or what Kansas City organizations are doing to make a difference in the lives of kids before we move forward?
What's Natalie, what's the current RSVP number?
Opening that right now.
And did we ever do the targeted invites? I know we talked about that.
That might be a good discussion right now to like kind of finalize that, because I think we're sitting at 32. And with us maybe 34 already. So we have 11 people, so we can invite basically.
Yeah. Do you know, like can we can probably, because there will be some no-shows. Can we
Overfill.
Yeah, I guess we can take as many RSVPs as we want, just anticipating some no-shows, but the capacity is, what did you say, 45?
45.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the list and I already see 2 repeats, so maybe we have 13 or 14 invites still.
Yeah.
Well, I think we pushed to standing room only, and I think you're right, Robin. We can probably predict that 10% won't show, maybe even more, maybe 15%. But in terms of who do we want in the room, I invited Bob McCall today. I don't know if he's part of the Parks and Rec group, and maybe someone from Johnson County Parks and Rec could let me know who he is in their org. But he on LinkedIn, he has himself a World Cup. I forget how he describes himself. Hold on. Bo McCall. I'm sorry. World Cup Special Project Manager. And he's Johnson County, Kansas government full-time World Cup Special Projects Manager, County Manager's Office, Project Management. In the past, he's been the Principal Innovation Analyst and Innovation Team. And then he worked for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for 2 years. And then Senior Management Analyst for Kansas City, Missouri, City of Olathe, So I don't know what his role is, but he's been posting about what Johnson County's doing for FIFA for the World Cup, and
Johnson County kind of has their own FIFA 26 group, and it looks like he's on the board for that.
yeah. So he could be he looks like a nice enough guy. I don't know. I know that he said he was going to sign up. That's when I asked you for the link because I was looking for a link for him. So, if I don't know who's on the list, so we just have to see who's on the list. But if Wayman King's not on the list, we should invite Wayman personally somehow. If Taylor Banks is not on the list, we should invite her. If obviously Lewis Mays has left the Kansas City Royals. I don't know if you guys know that.
His wife is signed up.
Oh, well, that's
No,
good.
I didn't know that. Do you know what he's doing or?
No, I haven't heard. He just posted that he was moving on to something new. So,
Okay.
And thanked, everybody and kind of made a big deal about his time there and what he was able to get accomplished. And,
Okay.
but Amy Gale would be good to have there. Sporting KC's group. I still kind of think that the World Cup is going to respond to me at some point, and that I can get a little pushier. Obviously my message wasn't very pushy. I was mostly like, we're here. But
I thought it was fine. You can't, I don't know that there's any point in pushing them. They know what we're asking. You're not gonna, pushing them is I think more likely at this point in where they're at, going to just say, nah, we can't deal with this. So I think you handled it well.
okay. Well, Nick Garcia's just joined us, and so has Jason. And hi, Katie. Katie's on too. So welcome, you guys. I didn't notice that you were here. So, Jason, you got out early. That's good.
We actually don't have school today because of the hail last night.
Oh, really?
Did damage to our building. Yeah,
Never heard that before.
that's
Damn.
a first.
A tent? You guys work in a tent? Paper
What's
house?
that?
Do you work in a
So
tent?
you guys work in a paper house?
We had like baseball size hail last night.
Hmm.
Yeah, I saw there's like 4 inches in the Northland.
Yeah.
Mhm. It was
Wow.
wild. Yeah.
That is wild. We had little ones, but we didn't. It was cool, but it was not.
Pretty sure
baseball.
my car's totaled and I'm getting a new roof pretty soon. So
Oh my god!
Wow.
Great, nice thing to wake up to.
correct, yeah.
Well, it's kind of nice that Nick is here. Nick, you've been mentioned as someone that we would like to put on stage, and not to put you on the spot, but
Sure.
obviously your experience in the world of soccer, and also, the dedication you've given to help develop the game in the city of Kansas City, would lend itself to a pretty, keynote type of presentation. I'll let you guys all know that I met with Mark Jorgensen 2 weeks ago with Dr. Shook. Robin and I got a chance to meet with him. Super nice guy. It just so happens that he's totally Midwest. Wanted to know all about Robin's experience in Iowa, and he's a Nebraska dude. So
College grad, Pete.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
yeah.
There we go.
And he's got his hands full, and let us know that, and said that there's room for this kind of discussion. He said if we're going to push some sort of Big L legacy towards the board, it needed to go through Cliff Illig, and that it needed to be centered around coach development, and that they have kind of a heart for this idea of developing coaches so they can impact kids as mentors and as leaders. And I know Jason's leaned into creating a better environment to help be more conducive to developing kids through sports. And Bob Martin obviously is dedicated the whole rest of his life to trying to figure out how to keep kids safe in those environments, and also create relationships with coaches that are positive and not negative. And so, I mean, we have the makings of and that's what we told Mark, in no uncertain terms. We had the makings of a framework and you know, a, a an a structure that they could hang on, that they could actually move forward with if they thought that they want, you know, if they trusted that we had that. And he said that we needed to get to Cliff and should say that same thing to Cliff and share it with Cliff and see what Cliff thought. So I have a relationship with someone that's close to Cliff in his office, and I've asked them to help me set an appointment with Cliff. I know Cliff. I've never met with him in this capacity. I don't know what he's like to sit in front of. I'm very comfortable with Mark Jorgensen. I was very comfortable with Neil Sharma. You know, I'd be comfortable with really just about anyone else, but Cliff I just don't know. But at the same time, Mark said that Cliff is very interested in long-term legacy, what's going to happen when the World Cup is over, what's going to happen as we go into the Women's World Cup and World Cup rugby and all of those things. And that's this idea of developing a system within Kansas City that develops coaches is of interest to them. So that's what allowed Pete and I and Natalie to talk more about coach development. And Nick, I know I kind of put you on the spot and then took the mic back and started going off. So I'm going to pause and let you say anything you think of.
Yeah, so I think there's probably a lot, right? It doesn't surprise me that the World Cup committee has not responded, and I don't think they will. So I think it's one of those things where if you want it, we want it. You got to go and get it. You know, we at
I
Sporting
will tell
Brookside-
you that Mike Goff and Tracy Welpe did meet with us, and they did. So we did get them to pay attention to us once, and Mike Goff said that he wanted to be involved initially. So just so you know,
yeah. No, and I appreciate that context, but you know, there's so much stuff that still has to be done.
Yeah.
The city's not ready. I mean, this will be my 5th World Cup in a variety of capacities, and I'm very pessimistic as to where things are at. I personally don't feel good about it. People that I have reached out to at a corporate level, some big legacy corporate people that have dealt with FIFA aren't even comfortable. So I think that should probably be a telling story to how the city is ill prepared, and that's why I'd probably give some caution as to saying, hey, you know what, if there is something we want to do, then let's go and create this, because I think if we're waiting for a blessing, it's not going to come. Is I
Yeah.
guess kind of what I'm saying, Paul. Right?
Yeah.
That being said, I think it's interesting, the coaching legacy piece. I get it, I understand it, but if you look at all of the sporting affiliates, they don't have that in their DNA. So I guess what litmus test would this hold true to in thinking about a legacy of coaching education? And again, I'm this is the pessimist in me, because if you want to really get to coaching education, why is U.S. Soccer, why is United Soccer Coaches, who has a home office there at Union Station, have they been approached? So I think it's, while you are going to go to Cliff, I think that's important. There may be some additional stakeholders that may be missed as well here, Bill.
That's really good insight. and there's no doubt in my mind that we might be missing some things. So anybody have any other comments? I've been talking a lot, so I'd like to hear from anyone else that might want to share. Welcome, Thane.
Hey everyone,
One of the
apologies
things
for joining late.
No, you're good. Good to have you here. One of the things we talked about, and I'll expand upon what Bill said in terms of pivoting. You know, originally we had talked about this as having more of the format on the 8th being more of a keynote sort of address, followed by kind of, I guess, breaking out from there to discuss some different things. Natalie and Bill and I talked on Monday and talked about pivoting to more of a couple of panels where we addressed both what is happening in the city. And Natalie, I don't know if you were able to talk to anybody at Parks and Rec, but the idea that we'd have maybe some different groups around the city who are planning things in conjunction with the World Cup, be one sort of part of it, and then the other part be, maybe we moderate a panel where people like Jason, Nick, people who are around developing both from and we had a couple other folks who might fit there, developing both soccer and sort of sports more broadly from a character perspective, developing athletes, and what that might look like long term across the city. So that was one idea we had, but I think we're still open to other thoughts on how we go in that direction. So there's maybe a little more context. I don't know, Natalie, did you talk to anybody at Parks and Rec?
No,
Okay.
not yet.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, and Nick, you probably have talked to Parks and Rec and KCMO. I would guess that maybe Chris Cotton, is that his name?
Yes, correct. Chris Cotton would be your point of contact.
Yeah. And then Angel Ferrara at Unified, maybe obviously we've got a relationship with the Johnson County group because they're part of they kind of run the Parks and Rec sector of the Kansas City Fiscal Activity Plan. I still think that, Pete, the way we've tried to lay it out, that we spend the first hour talking about what Parks and Rec or communities are trying to do to take advantage of the moment. And then the second hour, an hour and a half, we spend it on the power of the sport, soccer, and or general sports, and the power of a coach to transform a child's life is it still a good kind of feel for me. I mean, we are the sports sector. Our strategies are built around using sports. This is a sports sector, community conversation. Nick, I would love for you to think about whether or not you'd be willing to come up on stage, and talk more, candidly to the group about the way you see things.
Absolutely. Happy to do it, and for context for everybody, we service about 400 volunteer parent coaches a year, right? From background checks to education, in person, virtual, all these things, and so yes, there's some struggles, there's some strife, but at the end of the day, I think we do a fairly good job, and I think other sports do a very good job as well. So I'm happy to tell our story, to share things, and as it relates to the World Cup, and for us specifically, for this group, we have started, I think we did start back in December, right? With photos, with pictures of the World Cup ball around town. We've got giveaways. We've got like a Lego trophy that we're going to take around, and we're going to take pictures with kids, and activations at Swope. And obviously England's coming to Swope. And so, our legacy is tied to Swope. It's tied to the World Cup. It is tied to youth soccer. So I'm happy to tell that story, and I can dig into as much or as little as the group wants me to here today.
Well, Natalie, Pete, and I will help you kind of frame it, but I think that's awesome. To me, I don't know what you think, Pete, but
yeah, well, I think that actually it's interesting because you sort of bridge both these topics in the sense of what does specifically, the World Cup mean, not really mean, but what that's going to look like and how it leveraging that moment, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, as well as the more broad sort of coach education and development aspect of it. So that is kind of a nice through line that connects both of the different things we're sort of talking about here. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Robin, do you have any comments?
No, great conversation. I don't have anything more to add.
Okay.
I think you guys are thinking through it all the right way.
Jason, maybe I'll pick on you a little bit. As you think about that, because we obviously had talked about how you might be involved in terms of the character development piece of youth sports. How might that sort of play into the conversation about probably not so much leveraging the moment, but thinking about how we build youth sports long term?
I think it's as I've been in different environments, it goes back to adults are in a lot of ways ruining sports for kids. I've seen and heard like coaches getting technicals and yelling at refs. I saw a ref threaten a coach with like to take him out to his car. I've seen like at a Catholic league, parents yelling at people at the scorebook because the score is wrong, but also because they were point shaving at the same time. Like, I'm like, what are we doing? You know, and so I think the conversation goes back to if we want youth sports to continue, we got to get the adults on the same page of like, hey, this has always been meant for kids, but the adults are ruining the experience for the kids. And why would I want my kid to be in these environments where the adults can't figure it out that this is a kid first thing? So I think the conversation needs to go to how do we adults create spaces for kids where it can be competitive, but it doesn't have to be so like cutthroat or so aggressive, if you will, at the same time, where if you lose, my team just lost the championship game, right? We shook hands, right? We said, great game, congratulations. Yes, we were disappointed, but we didn't act like 8-year-olds either, or 2-year-olds throwing a tantrum either, too, right? So I say all that because, we as adults are the examples to the youth. So if they see us doing this kind of stuff, then they just think that that's normal, right? So I think it goes back to, again, asking the question of why does youth sports exist and how do we create environments that make kids want to keep playing?
And Jason, I'll piggyback on that, and it's a simple one-word answer: it's culture or a lack thereof. And I think we can get into a rabbit hole on that. But if there is not an established culture, or if there is a culture in which parents are not reprimanded because of behavior or because they're not promoting the right things, the culture is tarnished. The culture will fall apart. So I think you could look at specific sports, and I will throw out my son's lacrosse situation. Lacrosse in this city is disgusting. It, for lack of a better word, pisses me off how parents are on the sideline yelling and complaining. And I guarantee you, 99% of those parents have never been out there to play lacrosse, nor have they
Yeah,
played,
yeah,
a
yeah.
sport at a high level. But coaches don't say anything. Parents don't say anything to other parents, so it is a culture that manifests itself, and it's very difficult to rein in once you
Yeah.
start to lose.
Well, and Nick, that's part of our coach development is that we talk about like you have parents and you have a meeting and you talk to them and you tell them like this is the expectation. This is what we are doing. This is why, right? So you got to get everybody rowing on the same boat, like you said, culture. But it takes the coach who's the CEO of the village, right, to step up and be able to communicate that in a way where parents understand, hey, this is either for you or you can find something else, right? So that's been my approach. And a lot of times once you get parents understanding like, hey, and it takes a little bit more communication up front, but you do save, and it's not foolproof by any means, but I'm telling you, like, once parents understand coaching philosophy and character development and how that will lead to not only better athletes but better people, um, they get it, or that they get it better. A lot of times parents are just they don't understand it, so they get emotional with their kids and they start going off the handle too, right? So
Yeah. Well, I want to hear from Bob Martin on this a little bit too. Bob, what
Yeah, I
are your
have
thoughts as you
very
compare this
strong.
between Nick and Jim?
Yeah, I have very strong feelings about what we're talking about, having coached for 25 years, and of course, with Jason, very very impressed with what 4D Leaders has been doing. I have maintained, and I am actually very successfully in the process. We've developed a program that we're taking to these sports event organizers as we speak, and they're going to be rolling it out to the teams. I just talked to a Perfect Game yesterday. We developed the program in St. Louis, and they're implementing it this year. And then they want to take it multi-market, and it involves, Jason, to your point, you've got to reach the parents, and it's got to be quick and it's got to be effective. And at least a big part and probably the cornerstone of what I had developed when I coached was a pledge, and that pledge was given as a group with everyone in attendance, and that's hugely important. And it was very, very effective for me. And the reason it was effective is I put the adults in a position they had to say before the season started how they were going to conduct themselves in front of their kids. And that is what, as they say in church, giving witness. And it becomes psychologically magnified because when you have the coaches and the parents at the same time in front of their children saying, this is the way we're going to behave, it's very powerful. Now, there is a fly in the ointment, and that is not everyone comes to that team meeting and signs a board for what I just said. And we've now created an answer for that. Also, we call it a guest request. And coaches carry that guest request along with them. So if someone shows up at practice or at the games creating problems, they're invited to join aboard the line and that you set for your team of being good actors in youth sports. I will also say, and my tools that we've developed at Perfect Game, they are no cost, they are turnkey, and that's very important because speed, Bill, as you know, you talked to Home Field KC, and they said everything has to be turnkey because they know that people don't have time to dedicate to this. We're actually combining in the most effective way because what we're providing makes gives a coach a tool to control his parents and himself and his coaches. So that's obviously hugely important. But Top Gun, which is a softball event organizer here in Kansas City, has taken it a step further. And when you sign up for one of their events, the coach is told, and he has to initial that you are responsible for how your parents act. And they put a stick in conjunction with that. And the stick is this: you can be thrown out of this tournament. And you're not going to get your money back. And I call it speak softly and carry the big stick because you don't really have to exercise that. But now you've made the coach responsible. And Rob Beheimer, who founded Top Gun, said they have totally eliminated bad behavior on the part of parents attending the games and adults attending the game. So the combination of the sport event organizer making the manager responsible and us giving the managers and coaches a tool to control themselves and their parents, I think is an effective answer to what we're talking about. One of the problems when you go about trying to educate adults, they don't have time to be educated, folks. I'm just telling you, I did this for 25 years. And in youth sports, I had parents that couldn't even get to the practice. They had to get someone else to drive them there. You have mothers working 2 jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So back to this turnkey, simple concept. And how do you communicate what Jason said to them is can be accomplished. But as far as I can see, no one's doing at least the way we're trying to do it. That's what I have to say. I can't hear you, Bill. You're muted. I hope I wasn't muted.
All I was saying, no, all I was saying was this opportunity on April 8th is, you know, one moment in time that we're trying to create some sort of, maybe it's not even a jumping off point. It's just a community conversation built around the principles and ideas of where we see the city in terms of the impact that soccer and the World Cup can have on our city and how the communities are responding to that. And then while we have that room and we have 45 to 50 people that have given up their mornings to come, is there something more that we can do with that time, which would be educating them on some of these new ideas that Jason, Nick, you are talking about. And so we need to create an agenda because Natalie needs to be able to know how she's going to run things. And, you know, the purpose of this agenda item on this sports sector meeting is to make sure that we hear from you guys about the agenda and about our direction. And if we think that there's a place in that last hour and a half to share a unique approach, a tool, an opportunity that like maybe the BMS projects, you know, relationships with the event planners, the tournaments, what's happening with home field, what happened in St. Louis. We want to give you the stage to do that. And we wanted to have this conversation to say, you know, how do we make it all happen? How do we get it on paper so that we know what we're doing when we show up April 8th and, you know, who's on first kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it
Well,
sounds
what
to
we're doing
me,
is incredibly simple, Bill. I will tell you that. It's, you know, frankly, it's a couple pieces of paper, but it's also very powerful.
yeah. Well, so let me push this out. I like the idea of having Nick on stage to talk about it. I think the way we did the Positive Coaching Alliance in the spring, I mean in the summer last year, was that we had a keynote speaker and then me, interview them and ask them questions and kind of lead the conversation, which I you know, I would obviously I like being on stage and give me a mic and I'll sing to you kind of thing. But um, it doesn't have to be me. But I do like the idea of having Nick on stage and having him not have to prepare a PowerPoint. You know, this is what Nick Garcia is going to say, but more have it be, hey Nick, let's talk about what you've done in the city and how you've kind of worked this thing and what you're seeing and obviously your perspective as a World Cup player and as a lifetime soccer lover and all of that. I think is an attractive way to kick this thing off. Then have Johnson County Parks and Rec or in Kansas City, Missouri Parks and Rec and Unified Government Parks and Rec all have some time to share, maybe as a panel where we have each of them on stage and we have a moderator. And then when that's done, we transition to a focus on the power of a coach to transform a young life and the relationship between coaches and parents and the relationship between coaches, parents, and kids. How does that sound as an agenda?
I know, Bill, when we kind of previously talked, we floated the idea of maybe having some roundtable discussions to give everyone in the room the opportunity to share. I don't know if we still want to do that or pick a topic.
I think it's good. I think we'll have time with an hour and a half. We definitely will have time for that. And we could even send. We don't have breakout rooms, so that's not part of this meeting. And we don't have a ton of space at Kaufman this morning. We have a room that holds 45 people. So, and we already have 35 people signed up. Like I said, I think we're going to be standing room only. So, but there would be an opportunity to go around the room and let people share their thoughts and share what they're doing and make it be an open, kind of an open mic. What's your organization doing to take advantage of this moment and how prepared do you think the city is? I mean, we can ask the audience a number of different questions, and I wouldn't be afraid to create a safe space where people would feel comfortable sharing their thoughts about stuff. So.
I do think with that size of crowd, 45, I think that's plenty. I think that works to have a not Q&A, but interactive. I mean, you can call it Q&A. A lot of times people will more share. It's more of a statement than a question. But I think that works in that type of room, and we were able to, I think,
Control it
and also just sort of facilitate discussion if we build that in. It could be that the biggest problem there is that there's obviously if 40 people want to talk, we don't have time for that. But I think we can manage it, and I don't think that's too big a room. I do like that. That might be a better way than actually doing breakout, tables or something like that.
And I agree with Peter there, and I think that agenda sounds good. I think one of the things that's kind of cool here that we have, and that all host cities have, is that FIFA has a youth advisory board that they have created in each city. There are two guys here in town that represent the youth of Kansas City. And like I said, each market has their own. So they meet regularly with FIFA. They are working to help FIFA on some legacy ideas for youth. So that I think is a cool story. I don't really think that has been told yet to my knowledge. And what
No.
they're trying to get these young individuals to help them with, right, is talk about human rights and to see what fits and works here in our region, in our market, that would be different, let's say, from Toronto versus Mexico City versus LA.
Nick, do
Yeah,
you
that's definitely
know,
interesting.
yeah, who is like that group advisor, or who would be the person to reach out to?
Yeah, so I have the email at home. I can get it to you, but it is a woman who is within FIFA. I believe she is French, and I believe she is officed out of Zurich right now. But I can get those details for you.
And we met with someone out of Denver that was part of a international organization that was actually identifying who these young people were in each city. I forget,
Correct.
Bob, was that you and I? They were,
Katie, yes.
who
Katie
was that?
her name, I think. She
Yeah.
used to work for Safe Sport for many years, and yes, Bill.
Yeah, she took
And-
over the international, I don't know,
That-
it's
Mhm.
like the well-being of
That's right.
athletes.
For
Um,
youth athletes, yes.
Yeah, and she was talking
I have
about
her
these.
contact information. I don't remember her last name off the top of my head. Her first name is Katie. I've talked to her several times.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Bob. She was in town during the conference that was the grassroots soccer conference that was down at the Marriott, and I went and met with her, or not with her, but actually with someone who was in charge of Kansas City, identifying these young people, ambassadors, youth advisory board. So yeah, I think that's actually a great call, Nick, and I could see that being something that we do kind of anchor around, where we're actually helping them tell the story that gives us, a little bit of street cred that we've identified who these two individuals are and what their purpose is, and we'll let them tell us what they think, and then we have about 2 or 3 days to work that angle, Natalie. If we don't, we're trying to get the agenda done by Friday to present to Robin by 2:00. And Robin's, he's such a stickler for deadlines. So, so we'll take note of that, Nick. If you can forward us any information you have about these youth ambassadors, Bob will kind of work our angle too, and I'll try to reach back down into my archives to figure out who this person was that we met with, and then I think that's it. That's good.
From my perspective, Bill, and what I just said in my program, I'm not really excited about being a presenter. Jason, I'm working with 4D leaders, and possibly he could present aspects of what we're doing. I'm going to schedule a meeting with Robin too, but I understand your point. You've got to come up with the agenda and the plan here.
Yeah.
The program that we have developed is fully developed. But it's kind of a la carte. The users are able to pick out the parts of it that works for their organization and their team. So we don't force feed this program onto them. I can tell you that this survey that I talked about has been used for years, and I've received a lot of positive comments back in regards to what it accomplishes. So and I said survey, I should have said pledge. I'm sorry. So I don't know if I should be following up with you, Natalie, or Robin, in terms of how that might be at least presented as part of what goes on at the meeting.
Yeah, I think making time for the pledge during the 40 leader discussion, like as like a follow on, like, well, so if you thought it was a good idea, this is what the pledge looks like, and we were able to provide an example of what the pledge is, and how, maybe some examples of how it's worked, and at some point if
Is
someone had
Jason, is Jason off the call now? Do you know? I see.
he is. He had to
he's-
jump off. He had to help his boys do something. I'm not sure, but
Okay,
we've
well, I'm gonna be,
he sent
go
us an
ahead.
email. He wants to speak. We know, and I think listening to today, he definitely has some things to share. And if it ties into this whole discussion about behavior on the sidelines and behavior at home and behavior in an athlete's life, I think it's worth us at least having some time dedicated to that. So
I'm talking to Jim Huber, his partner, after this call. And Jim, last time I talked to him was on this also, as Jason has been. I haven't approached Jason about being a spokesperson for us, so I'll have to go through that. But my question kind of was, okay, I talked to Jim, I talked to Jason, and they're willing to present it. Do I communicate that back to Natalie, to you, to Robin? Who should I communicate? We should communicate back for purposes of including it on the agenda.
we would reach out to Jason. We're already kind of like, he's already sent us a request to speak. So, I mean, if he wants to speak, he can, if we have a spot,
Yeah,
we'll say, hey, Jason.
repeating, I haven't actually talked to him about presenting what we have developed.
Yeah, that's up
but,
to him. I mean, if we give
yeah.
him time, he can decide what he wants to say. So
Okay,
you guys can figure that out.
okay.
Dane, do you want to speak?
Sounds like the agenda is pretty packed, so
Oh, damn.
maybe next time.
Well, I do appreciate you showing up every month at these meetings. It means a lot to have consistency and to have your thoughts. I know we haven't quite dug into injuries or the physical nature of youth sports, but if you do ever have any thoughts or ideas or things that you want to put forward and help us, talk about as you are an expert in your field, we invite you to do that. I don't ever want you to feel like you're not recognized or appreciated. So
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I mean, I
okay.
usually just try and stay quiet, and I know a lot of the agenda topics are in some different areas, but it's been valuable for me to feel plugged into what's going on, and when there's going to be opportunities to contribute, which I know there will be at some point. I'm happy to step forward, and just want to say, I appreciate the work that everyone on this group is doing, because it's oftentimes thankless work, and there's these big issues that everybody recognizes are problematic and are pervasive all over the place. And sometimes you get overwhelmed with saying, how do you make a difference, or how do you make a change? But it has to be with like people in this group willing to do something and take some small steps forward. So just happy to support the group in any way I can.
Dane, would you mind just introducing your
Yeah, I
role
was
to
gonna say- I was
some of
gonna
these
introduce-
people that are new to or haven't met you yet?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. For those I haven't met, I'm Dane Muntz. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Health, Sport, and Exercise Sciences, and director of the JAC Athletic Performance Laboratory at KU. And I'm new to the school, new to the area, although it's been 6 months now. So I maybe over my honeymoon. I can't say I'm new so much for too much longer. But I have a history of doing work in youth football health and safety in particular, and youth sports a little bit more generally. So this is a topic that's of interest to me. And again, as I mentioned, I'm just excited to learn more about what's happening in the community and see where the opportunities are to contribute.
Dane,
I
this is
came
totally-
across.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I came across an article last month, and I want to say it was the work you were doing with maybe Bonner Springs student athletes. I don't remember where I saw the article now, but I shared it with some of our community in terms of the work you're doing and injury prevention and forced plates and doing things like that. That was pretty cool. So it was fun to read that.
Yeah, that's a pilot project. We actually have that group coming back here later this month from Bonner Springs, some high school kids. So we're doing basically high level, sports science testing and assessments with that group, the same type of things that we support KU athletics in, but at the high school level, and provide that information to their coaches and PE instructors. So, hopefully just trying to bridge that gap from our lab to their fields and their courts, and give them some high level support. And part of it is also just to get some of those kids on campus and get them introduced to, thinking of sports science, or exercise science as a potential academic and career field. Most of those students had never stepped on campus before and didn't even know that these things that they're interested in, the sports and sports science, is something they can actually pursue. And it's a STEM program. It's something that they can find a career and some purpose behind. So that's a big part. That's kind of an underlying part of the whole program as well.
I like that. Seemed like a real win-win that you get study samples. You get people to give you data, and they get that exposure and get to use something that, like you said, mostly college student athletes get access to. So that was cool.
Yeah, thank you. So good partnership. It'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Well, I want to invite whoever you think needs to be in the room to this thing. We're filling up, and we certainly want everyone who needs to be there to be there. And we're going to, like I said, I think we're going to hit our number. This fall, we're thinking about 2 different topics. One would be adaptive sports. The other would be flag football and the development and the safety elements of it. That might allow you to get on stage, Thane. So both areas are growing importance locally, and we feel like there could be a deal there. Midwest Adaptive Sports has a wheelchair basketball team that they've created called the Kansas City Kings. There's a younger team and an older team. Both of them are nationally ranked. The wheelchair basketball championships for the younger group is in 2 weeks, or next week, I think, 10 days. And then the adults will play the last weekend of March in the national tournament. They're the #1 ranked team in the country. So that's pretty exciting. At the March Gladness celebration, we've invited the wheelchair basketball team to come do a exhibition for us. And so that's going to be part of the March Gladness 3-on-3 basketball tournament that we do at home field. So, which is really cool. And I got to interview, one of my interviews on the radio show I did was with the coach, Bob, I forget his last name, but, he got to share about about what it means to be involved in a sport after actually he was an athlete as a younger person, had a tragedy, lost the use of his legs, and now he's one of the best wheelchair basketball players in the country. So kind of cool. Does anyone currently work with adaptive sports or flag football that wants to share about what they're seeing in the field right now? I don't know if we have anybody.
Actually, I can speak on the adaptive sports part. One of our graduate students, his primary topic, his dissertation topic, is wheelchair basketball. And that tournament that you're referring to, is that the one in Louisiana, the national?
Yep, correct.
Tournament? So him and one of our other grad students are scheduled to go down there, and he's gotten approval from the organization to do some performance testing with those athletes. So he's developed some of those relationships with, I think it's the National Wheelchair Basketball Association and US OPC, Paralympic group. So we're planning on doing some data collection. He's done that previously. He does some work. I know he's done some work with Midwest Adaptive Sports in the past. There was going to be a big tournament that was going to be on campus here in January that got canceled because of that snowstorm that we had. But there was going to be several teams that were going to come here, and it was going to be a big data collection event for us that didn't come to pass. But so I just mentioned that we do have one doctoral student. That's his primary focus, and he's one of the few people that's actually doing research, performance related research with that population.
Well, that would be really cool. So awesome. Well, let's keep that in mind, Natalie, as we think
And
through
Bill,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. And, you know, and one thing that we have done here for a couple of years now is we work with Special Olympics, both in Kansas and Missouri, to put on clinics for them. So I think it's phenomenal, the adaptive sports component of this. So I don't know if, you know, again, maybe putting this on the roundtable of discussion topics for us and how, you know, we as an organization are doing this. And, you know, we are also looking to include Special Olympics Kansas and Special Olympics Missouri in part of our free play during the World Cup. So that'll probably all tie in. So maybe that's a good precursor to what you have forthcoming here in the fall.
Yeah, sounds good. I like it.
Sure.
Pete, you feel good about it?
Yeah.
Okay, figured. All right.
I'll just hop in and just say, kind of related to adaptive sports and a little bit other sports as well. We completed about 2 weeks ago, we received our physical activity program mapping phase 2 report. This was the in-depth examination of adaptive sports, soccer, tackle football, flag football, and dance. It's I believe, 110-page report that we were delivered. We're still kind of digesting it, but we haven't even posted it on our website yet. But we'll have Natalie share or send out a copy of that report and an executive summary for your guys's review when she sends out the newsletter updates. But
Great.
it's phase 2. If you remember, phase 1 was where we counted every youth physical activity program in the region, you know, almost 4,000. And then this is a deeper dive into those 5 specific sports. So lots of great additional detail about those sports and just sports in general in Kansas City. And then phase 3, right before this meeting, Katie and I had a meeting about phase 3, which is we are actually going to create a map, a geographic map, a GIS map with every single youth activity, physical activity program that we identified in phase 1. We'll map all those, and then we're going to overlay on that map a variety of different other metrics like household income levels, percent of families with 1 or 0 cars, some bus stop overlay bus routes on there. So this will allow us to do some analysis, essentially examining potential barriers to sports participation. You know, if you don't have a car, can you get to this youth program that's out in Lenexa or Lee Summit or something like that? And then we're also going to do an additional analysis. We're going to count number of kids within some area around each program, so we can identify how many kids are actually within a reasonable distance of these programs and these direct services, or does everybody have to, you know, travel long distances to get to them? So that is starting soon, and in a couple months we should have the preliminary results. So excited to continue to share more of that data as we wrap it up. So
that's great. Well, and as part of Robin's work, he was able to secure funding to support a scaled down version of our Move Fund application that we placed. This is centered around the Sports Equity Coalition landscape, kind of understanding what's happening. And, you know, I know that we're past the hour, but Robin, if you want to share a little bit about the Sports Coalition's idea of what we're asking Midwest Center of Nonprofit Research to do for us there.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Sorry. It's currently making its way. The approval is making its way through the Children's Mercy contracting system right now. But once it's approved, which is hopefully soon, Center for Nonprofit Leadership at UMKC is going to do an abbreviated landscape analysis of youth physical activity, and play equity organizations across the country, places like King County Play Equity, LA84, our partners over in Philadelphia. And they're going to identify, key components of those entities, how big they are, what their budget is, what their mission is, what their focus is. Are they focused on coach development? Are they focused on like facility reservations? Are they focused on play equity? And then based on what they find, they're going to create a startup plan for what an entity might look like in Kansas City, based on all that data that we've collected, and all the meetings that we've had, and what the regional capacity might be for an entity like that. So that's going to
interested-
go for about 6 months or so. So in the
If you're
fall, that'll be
interested
done.
in learning more, there is a webinar on March 26th called Power in Numbers, Advancing Sports
Yeah.
Equity Through Coalition Building that we can send you a link to. Okay, well, we took a lot of time to talk about the agenda. I feel like we made a lot of progress. Just knowing that we have Nick Garcia on our team makes me really happy. Just a quick reminder, the quarterly meeting is March 18th. That's next week. I'm going to be out of town, unfortunately. There is a Shape America conference next week also in Kansas City. If you're interested in physical activity and exercise, Shape America has kind of made that their deal. And then the Play Equity Summit is in Boston on May 5th and 6th. So there you go. Before we wrap up, does anyone have any brief updates that they want to share about their organization on youth sports or physical activity? Besides, before the madness, let there be gladness. I am trying to get more teams to come to the 3-on-3 basketball tournament. I do have discount codes, Gladness 50 for half off, Gladness 100 for 100% off. If anybody you know would like to participate, we're inviting boys and girls clubs, big brothers and big sisters, any organization, anyone that would like to come and participate in something fun and energetic, and it's kind of a spectacle. You're welcome to sign up through the platform that we've used and make that part of your March Madness celebration. So,
Bill, can you send me the link so I can include it in the notes?
yep, I will. Okay. How about that's it? Our next meeting will be April 8th. April 8th at the Kaufman Center, Community Center. And then after that, it's May 13th from 12 to 1 is a regular sports sector meeting. So,
Cool.
all right.